All good things must come to an end. But to the Coyotes,
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Friday episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us Monday through Friday. We appreciate your support and we love that we get to spend just a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer at Penalty Box Radio. I'm usually joined by my partner in crime, Nick Morgan, but Nick is off this Friday. Friends, for the first time since February 17th, we have to talk about a Nashville Predators regulation loss. And this was not just a, 1-2 goal loss against a Stanley Cup contending Eastern Conference team. No, my friends. It was a little more painful than that. The Predators lost 8-4 to the Central Division already eliminated from the playoffs, Arizona Coyotes. On today's episode, we're going to recap this loss, including my one word to describe the game. We're going to talk about a few of the unsung heroes of this impressive 18-game consecutive point streak. We're going to preview tomorrow's big game against the Colorado Avalanche and wrap up this big feeling Friday talking about the end of an incredible stretch of hockey. Before we dive into all of that, do want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Last night, the Nashville Predators finally lost in regulation. It ends an 18-game consecutive point streak, and they lost to the Arizona Coyotes by a score of 8-4. As you know, here at Locked On Predators, we like to kick off our game recaps with one word to describe the game. My one word is Oscars telecast. This is kind of a big picture word for the situation as much as it is for the specifics of the game. Of course, the Oscars are the awards for film. Most of the Oscars telecast is about giving out awards for performances over the past year. Best actor, best supporting actress, best director, original song, yada, yada. At the Oscars, though, they always have a segment during the telecast where they play kind of some sad, slow, Sarah McLachlan-ish type music. And they show pictures of actors, directors, producers, people from the industry who have passed away over that last year. That in memoriam segment, is a way to honor them, but it's also like a little bit of a morbid point, like they're not going to contribute to the industry anymore. The loss last night may feel like an in memoriam segment for the Nashville Predators. But friends, I think we have to remember that this is more like the awards given out at the Oscars telecast. We can acknowledge the success of this past run with the Nashville Predators while also knowing that future success can still come. We want to be careful that we don't see Tom Hanks winning the Best Actor award for Philadelphia and then think, well, there's certainly no way he's going to win for Forrest Gump because he's already won once and now it's over. Predators are still going to get back to winning. This is my prediction. In case you missed last night's game, there is zero judgment. First of all, that was a 9 p.m. puck drop Central Time. And friends, that's brutal. But here is our quick 30-second recap. Jason Zucker scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes of the game, and it felt like Nashville was in the zone. And then the Predators got sloppy, and Arizona did a great job capitalizing on mistakes. Jack McBain and Logan Cooley scored to tie the game up 2-2 at the end of the first period. Noted Predators killer Clayton Keller scored a power play goal to give the Coyotes their first lead in the second period. Logan Cooley scored his second goal to make it a 2-goal game. Gus Nyquist brought it back to a 1-goal game with a power play goal, but less than 2 minutes later, Nick Bukestad scored, followed by Nick Schmaltz. It was 6-3 after the second period, my friends. The third period started with Kevin Lankinen replacing UC Saros in net. Nashville played a little bit better in the third period, but still really Arizona controlled this game. Andrew Brunette opted to go empty net with just over 6 minutes left in the game. The Coyotes got an empty net goal there. Philip Forsberg did score on a power play chance late in the third period. The Predators then opted to go empty net once again with about 3 minutes left to go. Logan Cooley scored his third goal of the game, earning a hat trick with an empty net goal to make the final score 8-4. So a couple of things that we want to talk about as we recap this game. Number one, why Arizona? What is the deal with Arizona and the Nashville Predators? And two, we're going to talk about a couple of takeaways that the Predators need to address before they take the ice Saturday night. When it comes to why Arizona, I think you have to step back and look big picture. Number one, I don't think that this is any sort of hockey voodoo, although it feels like it. But really, Arizona has been a pretty good team. I know they're not in the postseason. I know that they're a team that maybe people across the league really don't feel very threatened by. But if you really look at the nuts and the bolts of the Arizona Coyotes team, this is not a bad team. This is not too shabby a team. You have great talent. You have Clayton Keller, Lawson Krause. You have Nick Schmaltz on this team. You also have some young players. You've got somebody like Logan Cooley, who, granted, his development has been in fits and starts over the course of the season, but this is a young player coming into his own. They also have gotten great goaltending from former Predators backup goaltender Connor Ingram. Bless you, Connor Ingram. You just didn't have to do it last night. So I think you can look at the fact that this Arizona team is not as bad as the Arizona Coyotes' reputation would lead you to believe. I also think earlier in the season when these teams faced off, Nashville had not found their groove. And so when you look at how Arizona really played against the Predators over the course of the season, you didn't see Nashville's best in the earlier games. And the truth is, you sure didn't see Nashville's best in last night's game. So let's talk about what Nashville needs to address. One of the big problems in last night's game was turnovers and lack of puck possession. Here at Locked On Preds, we talk a lot about the stat Corsi for percentage, and it's a statistic that gives you an idea of puck possession. Now, the Predators had a little bit of an advantage in that first period, but the second and third period, the puck was controlled by the Arizona Coyotes, and you can't score if you don't have the puck. You know, Nashville really didn't do a great job of protecting the puck after coming out with kind of a hot start in the first 5 to 7 minutes. And they had a lot of turnovers. They made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes, things we haven't seen in this 18-game point streak. A lot of neutral zone turnovers, a lot of passes intercepted by Arizona there. We also saw the downside of this style of play come to fruition a couple of times in this game. This system is very much based on that first pass from the defenseman out of the defensive zone. And we saw several times last night where the defenseman couldn't get the puck out of the defensive zone and the forwards were kind of already headed down the ice. Those defensive zone turnovers ultimately resulted in a couple of goals for the Arizona Coyotes. So there just wasn't great execution from the Nashville Predators last night. We also have to be honest and say, was not great goaltending last night from UC Saros. And you hate to say that, but it's just what is. Saros did not look particularly sharp in net last night. I think there were definitely some goals that he would have liked back. Part of that, I do want to say, is that the defense did not play particularly well. This was not the best defensive performance we have seen from the Predators either. So there's a balance of the defense in front of him, and also Saros just didn't make some saves that you're typically used to seeing him make. A lot of people wondered, why wasn't Kevin Lankinen in net? I'm going to speculate on that. Andrew Brunette talks about the fact that they sort of pencil in who is going to start in net about a month in advance. Now, it's penciled in and they will make adjustments as needed. But I think at this point in the season, one of the keys is getting UC Saros ready for potential postseason action. And we all know UC Saros is best with consistency. So I'm not terribly surprised that Saros got the start. I think they really want to keep him going so that when if the Predators make it into the postseason, Saros really is in good form. He's better with consistency. We'll have to see what decision is made on Saturday. The final thing that I think was maybe a little bit of a nail in the coffin for the Predators is that top line of Forsberg, Nyquist, and O'Reilly was shut down last night at 5-on-5 play. And they have been a very good line at 5-on-5. Arizona did a great job containing them. They also didn't do themselves any favors because they did not play their best game. There was some sloppy play, bad passes. We've seen times where they haven't maybe been as active in some wins, and we've gotten a lot of depth scoring to kind of carry the team. That just didn't materialize like you needed it to in last night's game. Only one line scored at 5-on-5, and that was that Sissons, Zucker, and Cody Glass line. So with the top line not firing and not getting a lot of quality looks 5-on-5 from the rest of the team, it's a little bit of a recipe for disaster for Nashville. Coming up, we are going to talk about some important numbers from last night's game, and we want to talk about this point streak and recognize 3 unsung heroes that have really helped contribute to what Nashville has been able to accomplish recently. First, though, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, that's what brings home the winning trophy, and it's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. The Nashville Predators have a big game coming up tomorrow night against the Colorado Avalanche. On Monday's show, we will recap whatever it is we see unfold in Denver tomorrow night. We will also have our Monday plus minus segment talking about the things that went well and maybe not so well over the previous week of Predators hockey. Last night, of course, the Predators broke that 18-game consecutive point streak with an 8-4 loss to Arizona. But I want to talk about a couple of numbers from last night's game that I think are worth noting. The first is Roman Josi played his 900th career NHL game last night. I expect we're going to be celebrating his 1000th career game here in a season and a smidge as well. But Roman Josi, after playing 900 games, is playing some of the best hockey of that entire career. And I think that is worth noting. Of course, had the Norris Trophy year, had that great 2021-22 96-point season. But Roman Josi right now is playing some of the best hockey of that entire 900-game career. And I think it's worth noting that. He also recorded 3 assists in last night's game, which gave him 500 career assists. That's a franchise record for the Predators. Colton Sissons also had an assist in last night's game, which gave him his 200th career point. Colton Sissons, one of those guys who just does everything for the Nashville Predators, may not jump off the score sheet, may not jump off the ice at you, but he does so many little things well for the Predators and is such an important voice as a veteran in that locker room for them as well. So shout out to Colton Sissons for that. Do have to acknowledge Filip Forsberg's accomplishments. Forsberg scored his 41st goal of the season with that power play goal late in the third period. He is just 3 goals away from breaking the franchise record set by Matt Duchene. And he also set a franchise record for consecutive goal streak. Last night was his 7th game in a row with a goal. Filip Forsberg, despite the loss, is playing very well. Let's keep an eye on whether he can continue that against Colorado, because Forsberg's performance is going to be important tomorrow night. Two other players that I want to give a numbers shout out to real quick. Cody Glass back in the lineup after being a healthy scratch for 8 games. Glass had 2 primary assists with Jason Zucker. He was playing with Zucker and Colton Sissons. It was really great to see that line get chemistry going early. Jason Zucker talked about playing with Glass and those assists from him after the first period. Really liked playing with him. I thought Cody Glass looked really good, especially early in that game. Also, let's give a shout out to Jeremy Lauzon. Lauzon was on pace to break the NHL record for most hits in a single season and then was injured, missed a couple of games. Last night, 11 hits in the game. And I want to give him credit because he kind of got taken after one of his hits, and he was so wise not to retaliate, which gave the Predators a power play opportunity. So a very physical game from Jeremy Lauzon, yet again, 11 hits. And, he may still be able to make this NHL hits in a single season record for the entire league. Keep your ear open and your eyes out for something exciting that Penalty Box Radio is going to be announcing soon about Jeremy Lauzon and that hits record. Just going to tease that and leave that there. Want to talk about 3 unsung heroes for the Nashville Predators when it comes to what we've seen over this 18-game consecutive point streak. Of course, we know that the best players have been the best players for the Predators through this stretch. In 18 games, Philip Forsberg has 15 goals, 28 points. Gustav Nyquist, 8 goals, 24 points. Ryan O'Reilly, 6 goals, 16 points. Roman Josi, 8 goals, 24 points in 18 games. But there have been lots of players that have contributed to Nashville's success. That's one of the things the team really has prided itself on through this stretch, is that everybody is, as they say, pulling the rope in the same direction. There really hasn't been any dead weight on this roster. So it's a little bit hard to single out some folks, but I'm going to do it anyway. And a couple of them are really not going to surprise you. First, I want to give a shout out to Kevin Lankinen. I know, I talk about Kevin Lankinen a lot. I'm going to do it again, and I'm not going to apologize for this one. Kevin Lankinen played 5 of the 18 games in net. And friends, those weren't the easiest 5 games that he was given either. In those 5 games, had a .948 save percentage, 1.5 goals against average. And it's not really even about the stats. It's about the reliability. The Nashville Predators play in front of Kevin Lankinen the exact same way they play in front of UC Saros. When you have a backup goaltender in there, there is a lot of teams in the league where their players have to make some adjustments. That is not true when you're playing with Kevin Lankinen in net. He has been so good for this Predators team. I think he's playing some really great hockey, and he can play against the top teams. Lankinen did not just get those throwaway, quote, easy games through this stretch. He played some of the toughest teams in the league and has been very good for them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Andrew Burnett chooses to use Lankinen through the rest of this regular season. But shout out to Kevin Lankinen for being an unsung hero for this Predators team. Another player I want to give a shout out to, somebody I talk about also quite a bit. Let's hear for Ryan Patrick McDonagh, my friends. Very quietly, perhaps you didn't even notice over this 18-game streak, Ryan Patrick McDonagh has collected 14 points and 1 goal. And again, more than just the stats, it's about the reliability on defense. The Predators have had a lot of movement on the blue line with Jeremy Lauzon out, Alexander Carrier, Dante Fabro out, Spencer Stastny in and out, Tyson Barrie coming in after being a healthy scratch. And so you've really needed Roman Josi and Ryan McDonagh to sort of be the veteran calming presence on the blue line. And Ryan McDonagh jumped up to play with Roman Josi. And as you can see, Roman Josi flourished in that pairing as well. He's done very good with Fabro, did very well with Ryan McDonagh as well. I also think that Ryan McDonagh needs some credit, as do a couple of the other veterans, for what they've done in the locker room. Because as younger players and as a team that's kind of rebuilding and having success that I think we can all agree is probably unexpected, they've done a very good job of keeping this team focused on what matters and helping this team not get swept up into the hype and being focused on what are the details that matter on the ice. So shout out to Ryan McDonough, his experience, his veteran presence, and his performance on the ice. Finally, I want to shout out Mark Jankowski. On Wednesday's show, we talked about how good this line of Jankowski, Novak, and Evangelista has been through this stretch. And so I hate to single any one of them out because they've all been really important to the Predators. But I do want to shout out Mark Jankowski. Jankowski has obviously been very good at 5-on-5 with his line mates, but he's also jumped in and played a lot of penalty kill minutes. And the penalty kill has been really good for Nashville through this stretch. That's been an important part of their success. And I want to mention kind of an interesting stat. It's called individual point percentage. And what that means is when a goal is scored and a player is on the ice, you want to, what is the percentage of time that he had a point to contribute to that goal? Hope I explained that well. But Mark Jankowski has an 80% individual point percentage. 80% of the time when he was on the ice and a goal was scored, he contributed a point to that. You know, Mark Jankowski was a call-up for the Predators partway through this season. There is nothing about his game that looks like a player who is a call-up. He has earned himself a new contract. He has built great chemistry with Evangelista and with Novak. He has been an important part of that penalty kill. I think it's going to be very interesting to see Jankowski through the rest of this regular season stretch, how he and his line mates do in any sort of postseason opportunity. And I especially think it's going to be interesting to see what the Predators do with Mark Jankowski next season. I think he's earned himself a look and maybe a chance to just stay with the Nashville Predators. Coming up, we are going to preview the Saturday game against the Colorado Avalanche. What a game that one is going to be. We're also going to wrap up the week with my Friday feelings. But first, I want to let you know about Locked On Sports Today. Are you watching Fox Sports and ESPN on your TV all day long? Do you have to turn down the volume because of all the screaming and arguing? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news. It's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are wrapping up this week. Sadly, that fun franchise point streak ended after the Predators lost last night to the Arizona Coyotes. But friends, we do not have time to fret or fuss because the Predators head to Denver to take on the Avalanche tomorrow night. So let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche right now. The Avalanche were on a 9-game win streak after they lost to Nashville on March 2nd. They finally lost earlier this week to Montreal on Tuesday night, 2-1. And then they lost last night to the New York Rangers in a shootout, 3-2. Another streak ended last night besides the Nashville Predators. This has to do with Nathan MacKinnon. Nathan MacKinnon's point streak ended last night at 19 games. He also ended a home game point streak, which is insane, of 35 games. Nathan MacKinnon has scored a point in every home game for the Colorado Avalanche since the season started until last night. Just insane. Colorado has only lost 8 games at home all season. They have just now lost 2 in a row. Friends, they are going to want to fix that tomorrow night. And it is going to be a battle. Of course, you are facing Nathan MacKinnon. He has 123 points. Sweet baby Jesus. 45 goals this season. Mikko Rantanen is just 3 points away from that 100-point mark with 39 goals. Val Nichushkin, another one of the big players for the Avalanche. I believe he was out of the game last night, but he has 26 goals and 50 points. We're also going to catch up with Yakov Trenin, who is spending some time on the 4th line with Colorado since the trade deadline. So what are the keys to the game for the Nashville Predators tomorrow night? Number 1, clean up your uncharacteristic mistakes. If you think Arizona capitalized on mistakes, friends, buckle up because Colorado is going to capitalize on them and make you eat them. it is going to be rough if Nashville does not clean up their game. That means better passing. That means better zone exits. That means paying attention to what is happening and getting through the neutral zone, better defense in front of the net. Speaking of the net, going to need really solid goaltending. And I think there is a question of who is going to be in net. People are speculating, okay, it's clearly going to be Lankinen. Saros had kind of a rough start. With Saros starting in Arizona, maybe the plan was always to give Lankinen the start in Colorado. I'm about 50-50 on this, about who is going to start. Regardless of who is in net, you are going to have to steal some goals. You're going to have to steal a little bit of this game from Colorado because they are that good. Goaltending is going to matter. Now, Colorado not having as much success with goaltending as the Nashville Predators are. We'll see how they do in net. I think the most important thing is the mental game the Predators need to play, and that is put it behind you and move on. In some ways, the valve has been released. The pressure of that consecutive point streak is over. Now, move on to the next game. You can't get caught up in that hype. You can't get caught up in the loss. On to the next game with very clear ideas of what needs to improve and what adjustments the team makes. You've got to get back to Nashville's game that led to so much success. Again, watch for that top line. You've got to get Forsberg, Nyquist, and O'Reilly re-involved in offensive production, tighten up defensively. You want to see better passing, fewer turnovers as well. It is Friday, and I am all up in my Friday feelings, especially after last night's game. On Fridays, we're going to start sharing our feelings about whatever is happening in hockey this past week, whether it is Nashville, whether it's the league, whatever topic brings out our big feelings on Friday. For me, I think we got to talk about our feelings over this point streak. Obviously, we are all disappointed that the streak ended, but I really don't think anyone believed that Nashville was going to win out the regular season. It is very hard to play at that level. It is very hard to maintain that level of play. Every team, doesn't matter how good you are gonna lay an egg. And this may be Nashville's egg. Now, it's been so fun to watch this team succeed, but I think what we're going to find out about the team is what we see from them Saturday night. You know, we've talked about the maturity of coming back against Vegas and getting that win when you're down 3 goals in the third period. And that is just a sign of maturity. What the Predators do Saturday night will also be a test for how much has this team really grown? How much is the way they need to play to win in the DNA? It's about the process. So let's see if they can get back to the process that has brought them success when they don't necessarily have a lot of hoopla about the results. I think it's one of those things where we need to be happy that it happened and not so sad that it's over. The last 9 games of the regular season are going to be very important for the Nashville Predators. We are hopeful that Nashville can get back to this style of play, and they are going to need to do it immediately in Denver against the Avalanche tomorrow night. The games they have remaining, also some big ones. They have, again, Colorado tomorrow night, and then home against Boston. They're going to face St. Louis, New York Islanders, New Jersey Devils, Winnipeg. That may be a huge game, so keep your eye on that game. Chicago, Columbus, and they wrap up the season with Pittsburgh. You want to see this team get back to momentum heading into what could be a potential playoff opportunity. So we will see what they can do tomorrow night against the Colorado Avalanche. Puck drop is scheduled for 5 p.m. Central Time. And again, let's be happy that it happened and not be too sad that it's over. Let's look ahead and let's see what the Predators can do against the Avs tomorrow night. Big test. We will, of course, have a full recap here on Monday's episode of Locked On Predators of whatever happens against Colorado. So be sure to tune in then. You can, of course, find Locked On Predators wherever you get your favorite podcasts on your favorite podcasting platform. We are on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe so you'll know when we drop our next episodes. And of course, we are on social media. Check out the podcast at LO_Predators on on social media. That's going to do it for today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We're going to be back Monday with an all new episode. Have a great weekend, everyone.